Apple's take of Google search, the end of the SAG-AFTRA strike, and you can't escape OneDrive. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Take Control Books, one of the very best sources of clear, concise information on not only Apple's various operating systems, but also key Apple and third-party utilities, and more. Visit TakeControlBooks.com and start your library today. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is MacVoices Live. It's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. You could be with us on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. That's where we see some of our friends coming into the chat room now, and I feel sure there will be more later because there always are. We do this every Tuesday night, so if you're not here tonight, be here next Tuesday because we'll do it again then. We have a number of things to get to tonight, and so I have a pretty good idea we're not going to get to everything I queued up, but you never know. So we will just get right to it. So everything is confused on my screen this time. Somehow, Brian Flanigan-Arthurs has now made it into the top left of my screen. So, Brian, congratulations.
All right. Awesome.
I don't know if that and a couple bucks will get you a cup of coffee, but beyond that, how's everything?
It's going great. How are things with you?
Doing good. Hey, it's Tuesday night and with you guys. Doesn't get much better than that. Ben Roethig is here as well. Looks like he's in the Outback. I'm not quite sure.
Nope. I mean, I'm on a bluff.
Okay.
Or at least I was 3 weeks ago.
Should I ask or just let it go? No, I better just let it go. Dave Ginsburg is here also. He's been double displaced. He's now third in running. What happened, Dave?
I was sitting in the queue and the camera was on. I don't know. What can I tell you?
Okay.
So good to be here, Chuck. Thanks for having me as always.
Hey, it's always good to see you, Dave. Eric Bolden, he has completely changed his background with something that now looks almost barren. Eric, what's that?
Well, it's. I was standing in the middle of a field, and it was late afternoon, so it had a nice cloud background, and it sort of reminded me of kind of a backlit tree with, ocean waves coming in and the ripple of the ocean, but it's clouds. That's the closest I'm going to get to water right now, so
I like it. It's very austere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. There's nothing that's austere about Webb Bixby's background. That might be the brightest thing that his wife has come up with yet. Webb, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Chuck. And like I said in the pre-show, that was a quilt that my wife made when the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl in Miami. So, and it's the big centerpiece is a rally towel. So,
oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So,
okay. How long does it take her to do something like that?
A couple of days, maybe longer. It's it's more time cutting than it is sewing. So,
okay, shows you how much I know about quilts, and that's where we're going to leave that. So I'm not sure what the biggest news of the week is, but this one certainly seems to be in there. A Google witness accidentally blurts out that Apple gets 36% cut of the Safari deal, Google search revenue that is generated by Safari. And I don't know. I've seen this written up a couple places. I can't decide whether 36% amounts to what Google thinks it gets, or I guess what it's negotiated, or if it's 36% and that fluctuates up and down depending on how much Google makes on the search. Any way you take it, it's a pile of money. And it seems like apparently Google and Apple both opposed having this information released, and then one of the witnesses inadvertently spilled the beans. Is this a big deal? Does this surprise anyone, given that we really have never heard exactly how much Apple gets paid regardless of how it's calculated. We've always heard tens of millions of dollars, but we've never heard any exact numbers.
Oh, I'm not at all surprised. This is something that we all have known, that Apple's been making lots of money off of Google, just for the pure reason that it's the default search engine on every iOS device. So this is no surprise at all. It's kind of funny that it kind of leaked because they kept it a big secret all these years, and having the raw numbers like this article has provided. So I'm not surprised at all.
I'm slightly surprised. I knew it was going to be ungodly high, but I didn't know if it was going to be that high.
Okay.
Yeah, as I'm reading this, in the DOJ trial, Google paid $26 billion in total for default contracts. Okay, never mind. $18 billion to Apple is estimated. That's a lot of money. It's massive. So, and remember the iPhone itself is, while it's very popular, it's most popular in the United States. It's the Apple's biggest iPhone market. Now, that does not mean to say they don't have some penetration in Europe and South America and all that, but the United States is their biggest user group, and that's huge. That is just huge.
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to decide who this hurts, if anybody, as far as public opinion or, whatever. I mean, because Google this is apparently the relationship they have with Apple, but they have other relationships. There's this little thing called Android that, oh yeah, they own that. So it's not like this is the only thing, but I don't think it's a bad deal for Apple by any means. I don't think it's a bad deal for Google. I guess the antitrust people are going to scream bloody murder that, well, what about all those other search engines that would love to be there? And the fact of the matter is that if you want to use another search engine, you can load it up and use it just fine as your default.
Right.
You wonder what Samsung gets paid on the Google side. So if Apple's one, Google has to do the same thing. So
yeah,
or Samsung has to do the same.
Samsung is Android, so
but they're still the manufacturer. Okay, and they could go to any search engine that they wanted to. So
I'm not so sure about that. I mean, it could be, but I think it's probably part of the deal of, you want Android, then this is what you get.
Oh, that's possible too.
Yeah.
That voice is Mr. Jim Ray, who has joined us. Jim, thank you for making it. We understand you had a little fire in LA that may have affected your commute.
Yeah, maybe. Certainly was a long commute.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had to talk about this, but I'm not sure what there is to say other than just, hey, here's the deal. And, I'm with Webb, but I also understand Jim's point, that maybe as part of getting the Android operating system, they're obligated to put it in. So maybe they don't get anything significant from it. Google certainly does. If they're generating that much money off of Apple, then how much are they generating off of Google, or off of Android? So,
well, having all this information come out in some way almost hurts Apple more than anyone else. Just the fact that it is worth this much to Google to keep the search engine the way it is, and Apple's kind of historic push for privacy, there evidently is a whole lot of value that Google places on this deal, and it, to me, kind of partly conflicts with Apple trying to protect everybody's data. I understand the business reasons for doing it, but I also would understand why they wouldn't necessarily want to talk about it a lot. And this is the first time that we've really gotten some pretty hard numbers that weren't just a guess.
And they're bigger than what people thought they would be. And I think Eric's exactly right. That I think I said this on the show a couple of weeks ago, that Apple's always like, we value privacy, but here they're basically, taking, what is it, 36 billion? Some huge number
36%.
36%, but so it's tens of billions, I think. And, so they're really in the same business that Google's in.
Literally.
They're taking the money. They're taking a third of the money. How, they're in that business. How can you say they're not?
Jim, I could argue with it because they're going to put Apple does not have a search engine. Okay. So they are going to go out, they're going to contract with someone. And so who are they going to go to? They're going to go to Microsoft? Oh God, please no, not Bing. Okay. So who are they going to go to DuckDuckGo? Or are they going to go to Opera?
They could just set it up as there's no search engine and you have to configure it, like there's no default.
But
I'm not saying that Apple, I'm an Apple shareholder. I think they're doing the right thing. I just think that it's kind of hypocritical, which, oh my gosh, Fortune 500 companies hypocritical. For them to be like, oh yeah, we don't make money off of your, off of your privacy. Well, yeah, you do.
Not in the same way. If I use Google, I have no expectation of privacy. Okay. But I'm using it on an Apple device. It doesn't matter where I use it. I have no expectation of privacy. So I don't see that as the same thing as if I went to application X. Now I do have an expectation of privacy because Apple is vetting that. Apple doesn't vet Google. Apple provides that gateway.
They have built Google into the default web browser. How is that? They built it into the operating system. And by the way, the thing about Samsung, I think, Apple's not getting this money as they make the hardware. They're getting this money as they make the software. So Samsung doesn't make the software. So I don't think they're gonna, if anything, Samsung may have to pay to get Android.
Am I wrong, guys? I know Jim thinks I am. Am I just overlooking something?
I think. Go ahead.
I think it's kind of on a teeter-totter here. Apple by default does offer a little bit more privacy, but on the other hand, this is definitely a good move for the shareholders, and they are the company that makes it the easiest to change that search engine. That said, most people are just going to use the default search engine.
I'm just saying it's kind of hypocritical. I'm not saying that, if I was Tim Cook, I think I would do the same thing. But I think Apple agrees with what I'm saying. That's why they wanted it a secret, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, they're not like, hey, we're so happy this news has come out. They didn't want it to come out because they think it makes them look bad. And I agree with them.
Well, Apple's always pretty tight-lipped about anything that they don't have to disclose. Look at how they don't break down where all the wearable categories. They just say wearables. So they don't say, what's Apple Watch and what's this or AirPods. They play it pretty close to the vest across the board. Eric, you were going to comment.
Yeah. When they first started with the iPhone, the Google search, I think, was almost a requirement. But over time, there's been more and more disclosure of things that might be of issue with privacy. So with the current operating systems, every software that wants to go do something asks permission to get to your photos to upload an image, ask permission to look at your desktop to save a file, ask permission to do everything. Apple could have turned that on for search so that the first time you go to search, it says, yep, Google's the default, but this information goes out through Google. There are alternatives to other spots. They could have done sort of a similar thing to what they have done elsewhere in the operating system. Because of this deal, that's not happening. I don't know if it would be considered just to be too much of an impediment to search, but there is not really any effort to bring it to your attention. And that's the part where I agree with Jim. It's kind of hypocritical. I understand why they're doing it. It's definitely kind of a convenience for users getting the search kind of results that they expect. But from a privacy standpoint, I guess I would have expected at least a little bit more interaction, notification to users.
Okay. I'm trying to think of where else in the operating system, though, that when I fire up a brand new iPhone, where else am I asked to make a choice?
Well, you get choices like every time you have a third-party app, because Google's not Apple. Every time you have a third-party app to manage photos and you go to select a photo to edit, the first time you do it, it says, hey, do you want to grant permission to look at your image roll? Yes or no? There's your choice.
Okay, that's fair.
Or contacts, or there's all kinds of. Which is annoying. I would like don't ask me that. Especially on the Mac. Jason Snell had a column this week about how he, moved to a new Mac and got, his words, a blizzard of, can this software do this thing? And he's like, this is so super inconvenient. And what's anybody going to do except click, 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 click? So,
well, but this is the world we live in. I mean, it's interesting to hear you advocate for that, Jim, and yet condemn Apple for making a choice for you of some kind.
Well, no, I'd like to have a master. You know what? I'm good. And for that one thing, they could have a big. Are you really sure you want to, not be coddled, with 50 million dialogues, and go back to life the way it was, 6 years ago, and I'd be like, yes, but
yeah. Brian, you had a point.
Yeah, I don't remember, and this might be pertinent if it was Apple that advertised it or if I just heard it from somewhere else. But I believe in Safari you can set your default search engine to two different things, whether it's in regular browsing mode or the private browsing mode. So you could have Google, Bing, whatever for your normal, and maybe DuckDuckGo for your private, that type of thing.
Oh, I don't think I knew that you could have two different ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard it just recently somewhere. I don't remember if it was Apple that pushed that story or if it was somebody else.
Interesting. Did not know.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I heard about it back during the beta, but I never used it.
Well, it works well actually reversing it, where for private viewing you have it be Google, and then the other stuff you'd be DuckDuckGo, because then there's not as much stuff going out across Google. Mm-hmm. Although the search is still happening and still potentially tied back to you, but
yeah. All right, so I'm going to put everybody on the spot. Who doesn't use Google? Three of you, really. So 3 of you actively do not use Google as your default search engine.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys use?
DuckDuckGo.
I use Bing.
Okay.
And
I think I actually get.
Oh, go ahead.
I think I actually get better results now with DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, I was going to say I switched because the top 3 results in Google are almost never something I want to click on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how you're quantifying better. I got to go a little farther, Eric. So what are the 3 results that you? Yeah, it depends on the search. What are you finding that are the top 3 that you don't want to click on? Why don't you want?
Yeah, if I go and search for something and the top 3 results are results where somebody paid for placement, and the thing I click on isn't actually the company, but somebody just pretending to be the company because they paid to take me to a site that isn't the product I want, that's wrong. I understand why it's done that way, but I don't want to go through the effort of saying, well, no, scroll. Okay, that's the company. And I don't get that same pushing of bad information coming from DuckDuckGo. And that's really the only reason. It wasn't even privacy for me. It was just getting tired of clicking on things that had nothing to do with what I wanted to search for, because he paid to make it what I was going to get.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, same reason here. I will say, just a few years ago, I was very much in the Google camp as far as search. It just, quite frankly, nickel and diming through AdSense seemed to be gotten way more important than actual search results.
I know for me, I had a little bit of a different take on why I use Bing. I think it was probably about 10, 15 years ago, they started a campaign where they were comparing their results and Google's, and they were actually giving you points, so many points per day to search. And, it was fun, did a little bit of that, got a few gift cards, that type of thing. And then when I started looking at the search results, I started preferring using Bing and seeing what I saw out of that. And then fast forward to today, sometimes I'll see the search results, the pure, Bing search results of whatever it is I search for. They also offer that built-in the chat GPT interface too, where it's pretty seamless to go back and forth between the search and using their in-house skinned chat GPT through Bing, and I found it pretty successful.
I know I just got a notification on Google that said that I could turn on basically, I think the phrase was AI assisted chat searches. So, and I turned it on, and it now seems to have an extra little entry at the top that, this search was, and the answers always seem to be a little more expansive than just a straight search result. So I haven't decided whether I like it or not, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Just to finish this off, Barry in the chat room said app developers now know they have a better deal than Google because they're only paying 30%. Google's paying 36%. I think I better leave it that way. I really felt obligated to bring this one up if I can get them in the chat room. The SAG-AFTRA deal is a done deal now, but one of the biggest sticking points was, Ben?
It's not a done deal. It has to be still voted on membership for the reason you're about to tell us about.
Okay. Yes. Well, and it's the question over AI generated images, but also using the likeness of deceased actors without the family's permission. And when I saw this one, I mean, I really hadn't seen this part written up a whole lot. We did discuss it at one point a couple of weeks ago about an ad. Now I can't even remember what it was for, but that used some deceased actors' likenesses. And so part of me just says, what was the motion picture industry thinking that they thought it was okay to go and do this without somebody's permission? I'm just still kind of a little bit appalled at that. You talk about do the right thing. how could you go back and say that I'm going to use Jimmy Cagney's likeness to, in a soda commercial? Notice I didn't say a particular brand. But, just, oh yeah, because we can do it, we're going to. And because we could use a likeness of someone, we're going to.
They didn't have to get permission from the estate?
The way this is written up, as I understand it, I don't think so, Jim. And now we lost somebody. Sorry.
Ben.
Yeah, where'd Ben go? Yeah, it's just the way I'm reading it, that because this is now being integrated into this, that it looks like maybe they didn't. So I don't know, but I hope it goes through to the satisfaction of everyone, and just that things can get back on track for so many people whose lives and earning capacities have been affected by this. But it's one more place where technology has intruded into people's lives, and everyone's trying to figure it out. So I think it's worth paying attention to. Anybody else have any thoughts, or with me or not with me on that? Eric, you look pensive.
Yeah, overall, I think it's good, and I think it may actually end up allowing more artificially generated characters occurring, because there wasn't really a framework for doing it, and then there was a lot of objections after it happened, and this way, at least there's an opportunity, and they have to kind of go back and forth and negotiate. Because as much as I have issues with AI, I think continuing as development is good, and having something fun that is helpful. But without the actors building the building blocks, nothing ever is going to happen. So if this makes sure that the actors get precedence on everything, with an occasional use for special cases, it at least leaves open some possibilities. In the case of a production not finishing because of a death of a character or an accident, yet still being able to complete a movie, there could be some cases where this is helpful.
That's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that, but you would think that that's something that the industry will try to write into most scripts, that should there be an accident, that they could use whatever technologies available that are available to finish the film.
Or at least if they decide to do it, they have to go back and talk to somebody before they go that route. Because somebody might say, no, it's not the same. No. And that should be an option for the actors or their families or their estates, or, but this way there's at least a possibility.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a really good point. Okay, you knew this one was coming. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I could not help it. Microsoft now will not let you turn off OneDrive without asking you to explain why. I'm
David.
Yeah.
That was the lead story last week on In Touch with iOS when Chuck arrived, so I knew that's why I'm laughing.
It happened right after shortly after we did this show last week, and I just could not leave it alone. I mean, if you go to the dictionary and look up arrogance, you'll find this story. This is about as arrogant as it gets.
It just blows my mind in general what Microsoft's been doing lately to Office. I mean, I've been dealing with major bugs with installations, with things not working right. They change things, you put things in different places. This is not surprising at all. The OneDrive, the installation application has changed, and not only on Windows but on Mac as well. So it's not just this. I mean, they just are constantly making changes, and I'm amazed that the user community is not up in arms about it. Microsoft's having their Ignite conference. Actually, it starts tomorrow, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of more announcements we'll hear about at the end of this week. But overall, with the point of this story, yeah, I think this is absolute silliness. I mean, and Microsoft's been like that with OneDrive for a long time. I mean, every time you exit it, it's like, are you sure you're going to be backed up? You're going to do this, blah, 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 blah. And now it's gotten worse. But they actually enforcing, trying everything they can to stop somebody from having to launch it. I mean, if you don't use OneDrive, uninstall it. I mean, that's pretty much the the thing, and you can uninstall it because it does have a standalone installer. But every time you install Windows 11, it's of course like the plague, have all their stuff with it. I mean, it was just like Internet Explorer back in the old days. You were stuck with that. You that was the back end of a browser. Now it's Edge. But and believe me, I changed browser defaults from Edge to Chrome all the time, and they nag, are you sure you want to do this? So we have all these great other features, and then going into default apps, because at work I have most people want to use Google Chrome, and that's fine. And I happen to be using Edge. On work I use Edge. At home I use Firefox in the case of browsers. With file sharing, I know, Chuck, you use Dropbox, and some of us use Box, some of us use OneDrive, some of us use iCloud. I mean, there's so many different cloud services. We have those choices, but Microsoft shouldn't have to sit here and say, "Hey, here, this is how it is," and it definitely is something crazy by them doing this.
I have a little different take on this.
Please, Jim.
Yeah, because from when you said it and from the headline, I took it as, you can't do it without, like, they might say, no, you can't do it. Your explanation isn't good enough. That's what I took from, when you announced this topic. And also that's what I get from the headline. But that's, they're just giving a little poll. I mean, you can turn off, they will let you turn off OneDrive, and, they're just asking you to pick from, a list. And one of the options is, I don't want to use it. So, I mean, this is kind of a slight annoyance, but it's, it's not like they won't let you turn it off. It's just like they would like to, they would like to ask you why. And, that's kind of annoying, but on the scale of things these days, it's pretty minor, and, it's just one click and you're done. So
wait a
that's
minute.
Not really.
Good catch there, Ben. That they pulled the update that we're just talking about right now. That was right. That was like about 3 days ago, 4 days ago.
Yeah, they actually pulled it as we were talking about it on Thursday or on Friday.
Right. Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't catch that.
I want to know what happened, what somebody did with Jim Ray, because the Jim Ray that was here a little while ago was screaming about the flurry of alerts and everything, and he just wanted something he could turn them off and say he was fine with everything. All of a sudden, he's okay with Microsoft annoying you every single time you want to quit OneDrive. Now, and with respect to what Ben just said, that they pulled it, but
I'm sorry, is this something you're gonna? I don't use Windows. I don't use OneDrive. Is this something I'm likely to do more than once?
Dave, I mean, how often would you want to quit OneDrive? I would think if you didn't want something syncing or chewing up bandwidth, maybe.
Yeah,
probably.
But don't you quit it and it's gone?
Oh yeah, I mean, I just spun up my Windows 11 in Parallels here just to see if anything has changed, and I was able to exit out of it, and it didn't even ask anything. It just exited out because they obviously updated it. On the end of OneDrive, it's just like us using iCloud in the Apple world. I mean, it's on, we don't turn it off. It's there. You don't think about it. And what Microsoft wants when in the world of Windows on Windows 11, it's on. They want you to have the option to back it up. If you have Office, if you pay for Office Microsoft 365, you get 1 terabyte of backup for five family members anyway. So it's not like you're begging for space. But I find it I find it to be okay in the Windows world, and it works fine in Mac world too. I support both platforms in at work, so it's just it's important to have it. I mean, I think a lot of the big problems were with OneDrive was the fact that OneDrive was, if it's supposed to be your de facto backup like iCloud is on a Mac, you have to be able to back up your desktop, your documents, and all that stuff. And OneDrive didn't do that for a long time. We had to deal with what was called folder redirection. On the Windows side of things, you got documents, you have the desktop, you have pictures, and all the other stuff. That stuff wasn't being automatically backed up. It was the user's responsibility to move it into the OneDrive folder, and that was stupid. They finally have just now, within the last 4 or 5 months, have now put that part on the Mac side of things too. But again, the point of this whole thing is, should it nag you if you want to turn it on and off? Absolutely not. I mean, if you don't want to use OneDrive, then get rid of it. You can uninstall
it. I agree that I'd rather not have this dialogue, so I'm not changing my tune there. I'm just saying the headline was presented as Microsoft won't let you close without you explaining it. And hearing that headline, I thought like you had to submit to Microsoft and they would decide whether your explanation was good enough.
You could exit out of it. It was just a nuisance to have to do it.
And maybe Microsoft would be like, your explanation does not, meet muster, so you've got to keep it. That's how. That's how I understood that, and even looking at the headline.
As someone that doesn't use Windows, I can relate to that. In your case, I mean, obviously I do, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I would have took that as like, okay, well, I don't want a product that's going to force me to tell you why I don't want to use it. I mean, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Microsoft will be implementing that version next week, Jim, and we'll be talking about it. So.
Exactly.
But I mean, honestly, Microsoft got the message.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a link in that other article. I don't know if you're going to put that in the chat there, Chuck, but it does says The Verge did get information. It was supposed to be rolled out to a subset of OneDrive users, and the change has been reverted as a couple of days ago. So they obviously were testing it, but apparently it got further out than what they tested.
Yeah. Oh, so they used the same PR template as T-Mobile.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, gee, let's not bring that up again.
Yeah.
The panel is back next time to finish up our conversation about Microsoft and OneDrive. Then we delve into the right to repair issue that seems to be ongoing, and take a look at a new piece of hardware that is not Apple's and might turn your head, or it might not. That's next time on Mac Voices. I'm Chuck Joyner. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices each month. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.